Lawmakers are getting closer to final decisions in Tallahassee. We're looking at some of the controversial bills in the legislative session and getting the perspective of government law attorney Chris Hand. We're also examining this week's runoff election in Duval County. What should we make of Nick Howland's victory, and does it foreshadow anything in 2023? Those stories and a great event for veterans on This Week in Jacksonville. So glad you're with us today. A lot to talk about, as in most weeks. But today on This Week in Jacksonville, we're introducing a recurring and new segment called Hand on Government. Chris Hand is our guest, someone with experience at the local, state, federal levels of government. Chris is also a government law attorney here in Jacksonville. So let's start local today.
Of course.
Special election this last Tuesday got a lot of attention, not just locally, but even nationally. Why was this an important race? I mean, it's a city council special election race. Somebody's going to serve, you know, the end of a term, 16 months or so, but a lot of focus here on that one particular race.
Kent, a lot of reasons this race was very impactful. One, of course, is that local government is the level of government that most immediately and most significantly affects our lives. So who we elect to the city council really has a big impact on the future of our community. Of course, because this was an at-large city council race, it affected the entire city. We've got a population of nearly 1 million people here in Jacksonville, more than 600,000 registered voters. So it affected a very large number of people, the election itself. But it attracted a lot of attention from around the state and even the nation because it's one of the first electoral contests to be held in 2022, which of course is an election year with significant races up and down the ballot. So people are always looking for what are those early yardsticks or signs or bellwethers of what the 2022 election year is going to look like. This attracted a lot of attention outside of Jacksonville because people thought it might be an early sign for what 2022 could look like.
So you were part of our coverage in 2020 and in years past when we've done the general elections, the big elections. And one of those things that we've seen on the last few big elections is a trend. In Duval County, looks like it's going more blue. And I think a lot of people were saying, hey, is that the case? What did you see in the results from this special election? Blue, purple, still red in Duval County?
Well, I was going to say, I might put blue and red together to form purple as the conclusion, because I think this yet again shows that citywide elections in Jacksonville, and of course, the city and the county share the same borders because of consolidation, which occurred 55 years ago this year as a result of a citizen's vote.
55 years.
55 years in 2022. But I think as a result, we now see these competitive elections almost at every level here in Duval County. This was another example of that, a very close race, about 3 points sort of decided the race. And it'll be interesting to see if there are similarly close races this fall when the governor and cabinet are on the ballot. There's a race for U.S. Senate on the ballot. And of course, advancing even further, 13 months from now, voters will cast ballot in races for other local offices.
Yeah, so we'll show you some video here. Nick Howland, the Republican in this city council race, is the one who ended up on top there. Howland's going to fill out the rest of the term for Tommy Hazouri, the dearly departed Tommy Hazouri. There's about 16 months left for that term. And then the run for city council elections in 2023, Chris, seems like it's already begun. In addition, there are important elections for a new sheriff and a new mayor. It seems like this is going to be a very competitive cycle here. As you pointed out, 13 months from now is when those first ballots will be filled out about the citywide elections.
Well, it's going to be an election that has a big impact on the future of Jacksonville because there will be a lot of new office holders when that election is done. Mayor Curry is termed out, so there'll be a new mayor starting in July of 2023. Sheriff Mike Williams, the same. There'll be a new sheriff starting then. There will be a new supervisor of elections. There will be a new property appraiser. As much as half of the council could turn over in 2023. So the local elections, which started with this special election here in 2022 and now will continue into next year, will have a very big impact on the future of Jacksonville as citizens engage in this process and decide who they want to represent them going forward.
I think you've even indicated you've seen this as well, but it seems like a lot of voters, a lot of people, they don't really pay attention until you're a lot closer to when the election is. So let me ask about this. So several candidates have filed for mayor, including Donna Deegan, Al Ferraro, Omega Allen. The two potential candidates with the most money, they haven't announced their intentions yet, but we're watching to hear something from Leanna Cumber and Daniel Davis. We also don't know about former Senate Minority Leader Audrey Gibson, the state senator from Jacksonville. Is there a right time to get into the race formally, why would some candidates not have announced yet, even if it looks like that's what they're going to do?
Ken, I expect that most candidates who are going to run for mayor will file no later than, say, the end of May here in 2022. Every campaign has to make its own decision about the proper time to file for office. There's a couple of reasons that candidates might want to file. One, while there are candidates who can or potential candidates who can raise money into their political committees now, they can't start actually raising money for their political campaigns until they actually are a filed candidate. But the even more important reason for the future of our community is you can't really engage with voters in that complete way until you are actually filed as a candidate and can start to talk about what you might do as mayor or sheriff or a city council member. So filing is a way to start that really important conversation. And given how crucial these elections will be, what a big impact they'll have on the next decade or two of Jacksonville, I expect candidates will file before the end of the spring so that those conversations can begin and end either next March with the first election or in May of 2023 with the second election.
In this particular instance, I'm not asking for inside knowledge if you had any, but State Senator Audrey Gibson, I haven't heard her say anything. I'm going to. But she's also trying to finish up a pretty important last couple of weeks of the legislative session. So are those kinds of considerations what candidates use to say, I'm not going to announce until this point because I want to focus on, in this case, another pretty important job?
Well, I don't know what Senator Gibson's plans might be after she finishes her term in the legislature, but you're absolutely right. In a position like hers, one is sort of all in during the legislative session, focused on the business in Tallahassee. If she is thinking about running for one office or another, I anticipate that process will conclude sometime after she returns from Tallahassee and the 2022 legislative session.
Just briefly, last time we had an election for mayor, Democrats didn't put forward a candidate here. It seems clearly that that's different this time around. Probably based on some of those numbers we saw in 2020 and 2018, right?
Well, no question. And also, an open seat is a very different scenario than running against an incumbent mayor. We know that we're going to have a change in the office of mayor because the charter limits mayors to 2 terms. So I think that's why you're seeing this, one reason you're seeing this large field or potentially large field come together. Open mayor seats don't come around very often. The last time there was one here in Jacksonville where there wasn't any incumbent running was 2011, you know, obviously now almost 12 years ago. Right. So because it doesn't happen very much, that type of race attracts a lot of candidates, a lot of interest. And as we know now, there are candidates filed who are Democrats, Republicans, and even no party affiliation candidates.
Right. Chris, I appreciate it. All right, so stay with us. And ahead, we're going to move to a more statewide focus. What to expect in the final 2 weeks of the legislative session. Chris Hand stays with us on This Week in Jacksonville.
Free is our favorite word, like free samples.
Yum! Joy, thank you.
At Morgan & Morgan, our fee is free. You don't pay anything unless we win your case.
Free samples?
Injured? Call Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
My father had 2 heart attacks and is missing half of one of his lungs from smoking. It really makes me regret ever starting. I don't want to smoke because I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be in a wheelchair with an oxygen machine behind me. I want to quit to be healthy. I want to be able to be there with my children. I want to enjoy life to the fullest.
Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com to find free resources to help you quit your way.
Dear Jacksonville, you've been my home for over 4 decades, and I can't thank you enough. I love my fellow hardworking, family-oriented, friendly citizens from Jacksonville, but there's some things we can improve in our town. We need to reduce crime, homelessness, and housing costs, for safer neighborhoods, improved mental health funding, and affordable housing. I can't imagine myself living anywhere else, so I'm running for City Council, and I believe in the possibilities of what Jacksonville can become.
Vote Jack Meeks, March 2023.
The Stanley Steamer started with 1 man, a van, and a whole lot of carpet. We've been innovating for a long time. Stanley Steamer now goes beyond carpet. We've been cleaning tile and grout, upholstery, rugs, air ducts, and a whole lot more. We don't just clean carpets, we clean homes. So when your home needs a cleaning, give us a ring at 1-800-STEAMER.
For over 20 years, Subaru of Jacksonville has made the customer experience our top priority. This focus has earned us Dealer Rater's Dealer of the Year time and time again. And Subaru of Jacksonville is here to help you find the perfect Subaru. Take advantage of great pricing and interest rates starting at just 1.9% on new 22 Subaru models, plus a complimentary national lifetime warranty or 2 years maintenance. Experience the Subaru of Jacksonville difference. Your favorite Subaru dealership for a generation and counting.
Drive a Subaru. You'll buy a Subaru.
Harold & Harold's been in this community for decades. Knowing what we're doing makes a big difference in us being able to resolve cases for clients. That can be negotiating, cooperating, communicating with the other side to seek the best results for our clients.
My insurance agent said my rates are going up.
Local homeowners getting hit out of the blue with an ultimatum. Replace your 10-year-old roof or get dropped.
The I-Team getting answers why insurance companies say they have to make this change.
Homeowners across the state that receive 50%, 100% increases.
And it's not just the new roof, the other upgrades you could be on the hook for. Plus, the money-saving options that can help take the pressure off.
New rules, Monday starting at 5 on News 4 Jax.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
Florida's legislative session is just a couple weeks left. Democrats are accusing Governor Ron DeSantis of pushing issues that they don't like just to kind of fuel his base. A 15-week abortion ban, the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, and anti-woke legislation. Democratic hopefuls for governor, though, seem to be trying to use the same bills to win favor in their August primary. From abortion protesters to standing up for the LGBTQ community to marching crime victims, 1,000 or more people went to the Capitol this week. For Democratic gubernatorial hopefuls, it was a target-rich environment.
So if you are a white, male, racist, bigoted, you're doing just fine this session.
They're not representing Florida. You deserve to have candidates for governor that understand what you care about.
The target of both candidates' wrath is the governor and his agenda, which they say is driven by an expected run for the White House.
He doesn't talk about Florida anymore. He talks about Washington, D.C. He talks about everything else besides the issues that are actually impacting the state of Florida.
I know that the people of Florida want women to have the right to choose. They're respectful of women. I know the people of Florida don't want gays to be condemned in school, and they're doing that right here.
Protests or not, the House moved forward discussing its anti-woke legislation.
No individual is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously, solely by virtue of his or her race or sex.
Also on the agenda, moving the Don't Say Gay bill down the court. And while the House is pushing forward with this controversial legislation, so far it's going virtually nowhere in the Senate. But there are almost 2 weeks left in the session. And no matter the final fate of these bills, they'll remain fodder from now through the August 23rd primaries and likely through the November 8th election. The governor's spokesperson, Christina Pushaw, told us that claims Ron DeSantis is running for president is nothing more than a narrative Democrats have made up. That was her official response. So, Christine, whether DeSantis plans to run for higher office or not, there's a race for governor this year. This certainly seems to be part of that. How do viewers, how do voters stay focused on what's really relevant to their lives and to the state of Florida?
Well, Kent, this legislative session is, like many in the past, occurs during an election year. And election year legislative sessions are always different. And frankly, one commonality to them is they're focused on results. What's different this year, and there really do seem to be some differences from past election years, is what that yardstick of results are. Just in 2020, the legislature's big accomplishments were in areas like economic development, infrastructure, clean water. As you said in the lead up here, a lot of the focus this year is not on those kinds of issues, which tend to have consensus support throughout the state, but on issues where there is deep division. And that is a big difference between past election year legislative sessions and this year's sessions. What is likely to happen is that even though this session is scheduled to end in a couple of weeks, these fights are likely to continue. First, in the courts. For example, the abortion bill you mentioned, Florida has a right to privacy in the state constitution, so it's certain that if that passes, it'll become the subject of litigation. Same with the Don't Say Gay bill. Same with some of the bills in which Tallahassee is imposing on local governments and trying to restrict them. So there's the legislative fights, then there'll be the litigation fights, then there will be the electoral fights. and that will last, of course, until November of 2022.
So one of the things you're mentioning there is only a couple of weeks left. So the only real mandate that the legislative, the lawmakers have, the legislature has, is to pass the budget, right? So if they get that done, do they just say goodbye? Because you may know this, but always with controversial proposals or not, the vast majority of the bills that are filed in the House and the Senate, they never make it all the way to the governor's desk.
Well, they have two mandates this year. One is to pass the budget, and then every 10 years they have a second mandate, and that is to draw new legislative and congressional districts. Well, they've drawn the legislative districts. The Senate and the House have passed the respective plans for House and Senate apportionment for the next 10 years. The one issue sitting out there is congressional redistricting. The House and Senate have relatively similar plans. They're going to try and reconcile those, but the governor, who has a role in congressional redistricting, can utilize his veto in that process, has put forward a very different plan. So it is certainly possible this year that even though they're scheduled to end in 2 weeks, they may have to come back and finish some of these issues, even those issues that are just the couple they're required to get done.
Well, and specifically on that congressional redistricting, Jacksonville is affected here. Congressional District 5, U.S. Representative Al Lawson is in that seat now, but the governor's plan for that district changes it in big ways.
Well, Ken, this is one of those examples where even though there is universal party control of the House and the Senate and the governor's mansion, there is not universal agreement among those different stakeholders. Both the House and the Senate have issued congressional redistricting plans that would largely keep Congressional District 5 intact in the same form that it is now. The governor's plan would dismantle it and replace it with 2 separate districts. So that's where we're going to see of the governor's veto. He has threatened to veto a map that doesn't change District 5. We'll find out very soon when the House and Senate act if he'll follow through on that threat.
I want to bring up one other thing before we run out of time. I want to give you an example of Florida citizens taking part in governance and legislation. More than 100 people who had family members die in a crime-related case marched and protested in the Capitol this week. They want to require employers to provide at least 3 days paid leave when someone in their family has died as a result of a homicide. Darlene Farah of Jacksonville lost her 20-year-old daughter, Shelby, in 2013. She was there this week. Shelby was a clerk at a cell phone store when she was killed in a robbery. Darlene Farah says she knows firsthand how hard the aftermath of something like that can be.
People need time off from work to handle funeral arrangements, all that. After losing a loved one, you shouldn't have to worry about losing your job. When a tragedy hits your home unexpectedly like that, you don't know which way to turn.
The legislation applies to companies with 50 or more employees. The employee must have been on the job at least 3 months before the homicide took a relative. And so far, neither the House or Senate bills have gotten a hearing. Chris, I know this is something you're passionate about, helping citizens understand how they can participate. This is one of those examples, right?
Well, first of all, deepest condolences to the Farah family on the loss they suffered in 2013. Exceptionally courageous of them to take that loss and use that example to try and change public policy in this state. The most important role in American democracy is that of citizen. Former UN Ambassador Adlai Stevenson said that citizens are the beginning and the end. What the Farahs are doing are a very compelling example of that effective citizenship. And of course, all of us have, as citizens, have the effective citizenship skills we need to make government respond.
All right, Chris, I appreciate it. So this is first time out for this segment called Hand on Government. Chris is going to be back with us once a month. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Ken.
Well, stay with us. We want to make sure that you're aware of a veterans-centered event less than a week from now. More to come on This Week in Jacksonville.
Join Planet Fitness now and enjoy tons of equipment in our clean and spacious clubs for zero enrollment.
Zero enrollment?
And $10 a month.
Just $10 a month? That makes me so happy.
You know what else will make you happy? Blowing off steam in our judgment-free zone.
It's all about the endorphins, baby. What's up?
It's this place, I tell you.
Amen, baby.
Get glowing and feel fit-tacular for zero enrollment and only $10 a month. Join in club or online at any of our local area locations. Hurry, deal ends Monday, February 28th.
When you fall at a place of business, we stand up to the challenge. Farah & Farah, here for you, here for good.
The sun is setting on Bears Tommy Bahama month. It's the final days to take 50% off all Lexington and Tommy Bahama products. The lowest prices you'll see this year. With price increases on the horizon, you won't see these prices again. For one final weekend, our best brands can be yours at half price. You can't miss it. As the world's largest in-stock Tommy Bahama retailer, we stock thousands of items for immediate delivery. The biggest sale of 2022 ends Sunday at Bears Furniture.
Good night, you guys. Every time. Shh. You think she's still awake?
Don't worry.
Stealth mode?
Yeah.
Shh.
Don't PTA meetings end at 9?
Oh, got lost.
Wait, what'd you guys talk about?
The
Max.
libraries.
Fine. You can drive to practice this weekend. Well, that was easy.
What?
I mean, I love you guys.
The Lexus RX, built for modern families.
There's a different way to treat HIV. It's every other month injectable Cabenuva. For adults who are undetectable, Cabenuva is the only complete HIV treatment you can get every other month.
Cabenuva helps keep me undetectable. It's 2 injections given by my healthcare provider every other month.
It's one less thing to think about while traveling.
HIV pills aren't on my mind.
A quick change in my plans is no big deal.
Don't receive Cabenuva if you're allergic to its ingredients or taking certain medicines which may interact with Cabenuva. Serious side effects include allergic reactions, post-injection reactions, liver problems, and depression. If you have a rash and other allergic reaction symptoms, stop Cabenuva and get medical help right away. Tell your doctor if you have liver problems or mental health concerns, and if you are pregnant, breastfeeding, or considering pregnancy. Some of the most common side effects include injection site reactions, fever, and tiredness. If you switch to Cabenuva, attend all treatment appointments.
Every other month, and I'm good to go.
Ask your doctor about every other month Cabenuva.
At Firehouse Subs, a portion of every purchase helps provide life-saving equipment to first responders. We make our subs differently because our subs make a difference. Order yours for pickup online or on our app. Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs. Save more lives.
Channel 4 is a proud sponsor of the 2022 Gate River Run.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
In a couple more days, it's March. That means we're coming up on the Players in Ponte Vedra very quickly. The PGA Tournament has the largest prize purse in golf, and it delivers a memorable fan experience every year. The Players also contributes millions of dollars to local nonprofits with an eye toward helping veterans in particular. I spoke this week with Matt Toohey, retired Navy captain and a leader with the Jacksonville Military Veterans Coalition. He's excited about partnering with the Players this coming Thursday.
They put on this job fair every year because they firmly believe that once you've served your country, there should be a pathway to another great career after that. So what we do is we bring in companies that are interested in hiring veterans. You know, it's interesting. You know, the price for this for the companies is free. The only price is they have to be actively looking to fill positions. The service organizations that come in, the USO, Operation Uniform, provide their services to the veterans for free. And then the universities that are here provide the opportunity to see what's next from an educational plane, if that's what the veteran is interested in doing. So that's tied in the whole week. I mean, as you know, the Tournament Players Championship provides free tickets to veterans and to active duty personnel. They do a great military appreciation event on Tuesday, which is always tied with a great concert. And again, you know, there's no charge for the people that they're serving. So it truly is a great impact, specifically during the week, but this stretches out throughout the entire year.
When and where does this job fair take place, and what does a veteran who's interested need to know about getting connected?
Okay, it's easy. Again, we're going to be doing it at the Patriots Outpost tent, which the PGA Tour puts on. You know, you've seen all the high class, very expensive VIP tents throughout the course. Well, veterans have their own, and it doesn't cost them anything. It's all sponsored. It's located on the 16th fairway, right by the tee box. And that's where we'll be doing it on Saturday morning, March 5th. The job fair starts at 10 a.m. And we'll go to 1 o'clock. We've got, I want to say, right around 25 companies coming. Used to be more, but with COVID and the requirements for open air venues and stuff, we've had to scale that back. But we still got some great companies coming, and their interest is in hiring veterans. In the last 5 or 6 years, it's become kind of a competition between some of them. How many conditional job offers can they make on Saturday, and that type of thing. So it really is an opportunity. And again, if you walk in there and you talk to a business, they are actually looking to fill a position, usually multiple positions. These are some pretty big companies: Amazon, Florida Blue, Customs and Immigration, JSO, JFRD, Tallahassee Police Department. They're looking for a lot of people. So it really is a great opportunity for active duty, retired, veterans and their spouses, reservists. It's open to everybody that has served. And, specifically, people don't think of spouses serving. However, I will tell you from personal experience, spouses serve their country almost as much, if not more, than the actual service member. So,
how do you feel about this connection? It sounds like it's been a pretty positive one throughout the years.
Oh, it's great. It really is. There's very few things that you can do that you can really gain a sense of, I've done something that contributed to an overall good. And, helping veterans is one of those things. Now, obviously, a veteran myself, I have a very close, place in my heart for my fellow servicemen and women. But I think it's something that, they have earned through their service to the country. I can tell you one thing, no matter what we pay them, we're not paying them enough to be on active duty.
Love talking to Captain Tui. So here are the details. The Veterans Job Fair at TPC. It's happening this Saturday, March 5th, and before the tournament gets rolling the following week. It's from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Patriots Outpost. That's on the stadium course near the T at 16. Open to military veterans, retirees, reservists, active duty, and, as you heard Captain Tui say, spouses as well. About 25 companies with job openings are going to be there. You should dress business casual, bring copies of your resume. You go to lot 6 and you'll get some free parking there as well. All right, so coming up next week, we're going to look at the state budget proposals and how close the House and Senate may be before the session is scheduled to come to an end. This Week in Jacksonville airs each Sunday morning at this time. I'm Ken Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and on the CW17. You can find us online at news4jax.com.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.